Hey, what's up, guys? This is Reed with Rapid Response Training, joined again by Austin.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Uh, are you just Austin today, or are you also other things?
I'm other things. I am currently the lead instructor for the Attorneys on Retainer training program.
Okay. So, lead instructor for attorneys on retainer for their training program.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Kind of a big deal. Uh, People know you. You have many
Allegedly.
you have many leather bound books, and your office
There's one.
smells rich mahogany.
Sure, let's go with that.
All right, so we figured we'd talk about safeties today because why not? So,
It came
uh,
up in the training program today, and I
yes,
brought it
it
up with
came up in the
you.
training program. You and I were talking about it, or you were talking about it, and I was looking at it, not responding, and like you do. So I figured we would talk about all things safety, and when I say safety, I mean like manual safeties, like the switches and buttons on the guns, or lack thereof, and not safety like the concept, aka the third most important thing that we do.
Yeah, safety is a priority.
It's the third priority. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Number
Definitely a
one,
priority. Yeah, we're talking about the mechanical safeties on firearms,
yes, yeah. If we're talking about
mostly the manual ones.
the most important thing is to have fun.
Yeah,
And number two is to look cool while you're doing it. So safety is third in importance. Um,
roughly.
yes. Uh, yeah, that's not in my curriculum, but it would be pretty funny if it
It's not in my curriculum either.
was. Just jokes, folks. All right.
We're having
So,
fun here.
oh yeah. So let's talk about manual safeties. So, um, does a gun need a manual? Does a handgun need a manual safety?
Hmm. Are you asking me this question?
Sure. Yeah, give me your intro answer.
Does not need a manual safety, meaning when you have to disable other than, something you would do to fire the gun. Because the argument can be made that, it's unloaded by the way, that
Mother.
this safety on the Glock is a manual safety because you have to manually put your finger. I've heard this. I'm not saying this is my argument. I'm saying this is a argument
Okay.
that this is a manual safety because you have to manually put your finger on the trigger to disable it. I'm talking
Sure.
like something like a lever, like the trigger will not work unless I push this lever down or push something or manipulate something else on the gun. That's what we're talking about, just for clarity's sake. In my
Yeah.
opinion, no, does not need to be on there.
So, just for clarity's sake, we'll throw this up here. So, that blue circle uh, is over the thumb safety of that 1911. So, and I picked that one because it's got some contrasting colors. It's easier to see. But
It looks cool.
oh yeah, so the blue squiggle is around the thumb safety, which you have to press down. Let me press down like that with your thumb. That's why it's called a thumb safety. In
Hmm.
order to make that gun work. So that's what we're talking about, manual safeties. And you say no, they don't have to have it. And for a fighting handgun, I totally agree. In fact, I would prefer they not have it.
Hmm.
Um, Now, why don't they have to have it? Let me get your take on that.
Um, well, I guess to answer the previous question a different way, some of them do because the ones that do were designed over 100 years ago, and they needed those manual safeties like thumb
Ah,
safeties and grip safeties in order to be safe to carry and potentially drop on the ground.
yes.
Nowadays, you have guns like this, which do have safeties. This Glock actually has three safeties. One of them, like I mentioned, is on the trigger, so you can't swipe it from the side. If it gets on your holster, something like that. And it has two drop safeties. It has a safety where the striker is not actually fully cocked to the rear. So theoretically, if all other safeties failed and the striker was allowed to go forward, it wouldn't have enough momentum to detonate the primer and ignite the round. It also has a physical block inside of it that physically blocks the firing pin from touching the primer at all. So this gun right here has three safeties.
Yes.
But like I said, back in the day, those other safeties were necessary to be drop safe and things like that. There are other guns similar to this one that will have a thumb safety right here. I believe you said he had one, the shield. You have that one handy? Uh-oh, I lost him.
I'm back. Aha!
I lost him. Now I'm on the left now. I'm in control. So yeah, you have a shield with manual safety, right? You said perfect. Unload and show clear. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, I'm filming. This is backwards from my point of view. Sorry. So, this little one right here is a manual safety. So,
yep.
If I push that up, you could hear that. You can see it, and now the trigger no pressy. And if I press that down, now trigger can press.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. So like I said, that's an example. It's basically that gun is basically a clone of this one. Has the same three drop safeties, internal safeties, and a manual safety, so you can't press the trigger without first manipulating something else on the gun. So in that particular design of firearm, I'm of the opinion that you do not need a thumb safety or a grip safety, which was the impetus for this discussion at all. I was tasked with naming the pros and cons of different features of guns and different types of guns. And I got to the grip safety. And I was trying to think of a pro to a grip safety. And I could not think of a single, the one encircled in red is what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I could not find a single thing that was good about a grip safety.
So I'm not a 1911 guy, but so 1911 guys hear this and jump in the comments and attempt to roast me, and I will roast you back harder and more furiously. But because you're a 1911 guy. But from what I've heard, apparently, like back in the day when dudes carried these to like fight with them, frequently dudes would pin them in place, thereby permanently disabling them, or tape them down or wrap some sort of like a cut piece of an inner tube around it to keep it always depressed. So even when these guns were like viable options, not that they're not a viable option, but like the most modern effective fighting implement that was available. Even when they were that, the grip safety still was like not the move. So, and again, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert, but I tend to agree. I don't really see a reason for it. Now, I guess here could be a reason is if you ran the if you ignored the thumb safety on a 1911 and you only relied on the grip safety, like technically there would be no manual safety.
Yeah, if you want to call the grip safety an automatic safety,
it would be it would
sure
work similarly to a. Now that's not how anybody used them. I don't know if they're safe to use them that way. So, like, I don't know how much of a point I'm really making right now.
Right. Well, I'll make a point in the same vein, but actually to the contrary. John Moses Browning did not want the 1911 to have a grip safety. It was demanded by the military that one be added. So, like, if you look at the predecessors to the 1911, going back to, I think, like 1902 or something like that, the model of 1902, no grip safety, only thumb safety. So
Yeah.
it was demanded that it be put on there. Just like the forward assist on the AR, Stoner did not want one on there, but the Air Force demanded, either the Army or the Air Force demanded that there be a forward assist. So it was put there under duress on
Yeah.
both the 1911 and the AR.
Anything contrary to John Moses Browning has got to be just heresy. So
Yeah.
all those 1911 guys should probably just throw their guns out because
Yeah.
they're not true to the design.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another point I'll make after I make this one before I forget about this one. So yeah, anyway, like I said, I was trying to think of a positive, and people will say, oh, well, it keeps the gun from going off. And I go, yeah, and that's not a good thing because it keeps the gun from going off. Meaning, if you have to pull this gun out and use it to save your life, it could not go off either because, you might have to use that thing to save your life. So if you pull it out and you don't get a good grip on it and the grip safety is engaged and the gun doesn't go bang, you could die. Or if you're carrying it all day and all your crap is falling down into the crevice of the grip safety and the grip safety it can't engage because it's full of Cheeto dust or whatever, same thing. The gun will not go off and you could die. So in reality, you're making the gun less safe because you can't use it to save your life. Because people are only focusing on the gun not going off when they don't want it to. They don't think about the gun not going off when they do want it to. In my opinion, the latter is more important to think about.
Well, so here's a quick little Jay Gibson paraphrase story. Is they're doing whatever they're doing in Iraq, and I think he advocated getting rid of the clearing barrel. Right, so the barrel that you point your gun in when you unload it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was like, he's like, why don't we just get rid of that thing? Because there was an incident, because that's where the incidents happen, right? And they're like, well, then where would we unload our guns? He's like, well, we wouldn't. And they're like, we'd all just be walking around with loaded guns all the time? That's dangerous. And he's like, yes. Like, who? For who is it dangerous? Like, I want it to be dangerous for the bad guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I totally agree. So here's a point that I'll make. Obviously, modern guns, right? They are engineered and built in such a way that they don't need grip safeties to function. But here's another reason why is I'll use the shield again for this. Why not? I just got to do it lefty because this holster is a lefty holster. Is
strange.
As I drop it on the ground. Well, it's for my backup. So it's a backup holster for my backup.
Yeah, you're strange.
So I said I got two guns, one for each of you. So anyway, this thing gets carried in a holster, and the trigger is completely enclosed and protected. So,
like you do.
There's nothing that's going to make this gun go off, and it's got retention where it's not going to fall. So that's another reason why a handgun doesn't need it. Is the way it's carried, assuming that you're using proper equipment, the trigger will not be pressed unless you take it out of that holster and intentionally press the trigger. Yeah,
and if you think about it, let me take my real one out. I'll put my fake one in. If you think about it, if you want to go down that route and say, oh, well, it's safer even when I'm reholstering. So you go to reholster like this, and you're pushing down on the gun into the grip safety, disabling the grip safety. I just thought of that argument right now. It's you're disabling the grip safety while you're pointing it at yourself, either your gym dog or your butt cheek. You're pushing down on the grip safety and disabling it. But going back to the point I was going to make before is these modern guns, like nobody makes a gun anymore that's like this with a grip safety. The only one was the XD, and I think they quit making those. If not, they're
That's
scarce now.
News to me.
Yeah, like nobody. Well, because they started making Hellcat, which notably doesn't have a grip safety. It's just now it's a Springfield Glock basically. No grip safety, polymer frame, striker fired.
Okay.
And the XD wasn't even made by Springfield. It was, as you know, Croatian. They imported it. It just came with a grip safety. Some guys liked it because it was like a Glock, but it had a grip safety. So nobody is making those anymore.
They said
I don't.
It's a Glock, but it's like a 1911, so it must be better.
Yeah, it's got a grip safety, so it's more safer because it won't. It's less likely to go off, which they only see as a good thing because they don't think about using this to save their life. So anyway, so like XD has fallen out of favor. I don't see many XD guys anymore. I don't see them on the shelf much anymore. Like I said, they might even be discontinued. I don't know that for a fact. In favor of something like this without a grip safety. So they went all that time with the grip safety. And the 1911 is the last holdout just because it was made, like I said, 100-something years ago. And even then, the grip safety was put on there under duress. Like John Moses Browning did not want a grip safety. The next gun he made, or one of the next guns he made, the Browning High Power, notably doesn't have grip safety, just thumb safety. It's also a high capacity 9mm.
I need a high power for the vibes.
Might be one to add to the collection.
Yeah.
If you're into collecting, because you're strange.
If I had money, maybe that would be a problem I had. All right, so we talked about grip safeties. Let's talk about thumb safeties.
Mm-hmm.
So that blue circle right there, the doober that you press down with your thumb, or right here. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So
that tiny little thing.
Yes, on the shield it's very, very small. So tell me about thumb safeties. What do you think, man? Like, there's modern. That's the difference. There's modern guns with thumb safeties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, notably Glock doesn't make one yet. They might go crazy because the old man died.
They did. They did make one.
They did make one under duress for the military because the military demanded one. But I don't know anyone who can get their hands on one of those. So they do exist, but for us, we got to buy Glocks without thumb safeties. Now, Smith makes identical guns. Some of them do have thumb safeties, and some of them don't, because people will buy them with thumb safeties. And Smith and Wesson likes money. That's also why they're making. That's why all these companies now are making steel framed guns, because people, or metal framed guns. People want metal framed guns, so manufacturers will make them. Other than Glock, but like I said, since the old man died, they might go crazy. They might make a metal framed gun with a thumb safety at next SHOT Show.
As long as they leave my 19 alone, dude, we'll be all right.
As long as they keep making the 19, we'll be fine. But even then, I got like 5 of these things, and they're not going to take these away from me. So I mean, it's kind of okay, I guess.
Mandatory recall, dude.
They can come and take it. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Again, not necessary for safety purposes. Nowadays, we have all internal safeties, automatic safeties. Don't need a thumb safety. Dudes feel like they do, again, because they think it's going to make them safer. They feel like it makes them safer. It's either a null point by the point I made before. It'll prevent it from going off when you do want it to. It could cost you your life. So it's either null, it's either neutral, or it's actually worse. In my opinion, it's worse because it's preventing the gun from going off when you do want it to go off, which could cost you your life.
Totally true. Yeah, I mean, so here's the deal with pistols, with handguns that we're carrying to protect ourselves, not like as toys. like to go to the range and or compete or whatever else you do with your pistol that's not carrying to like save your own life or somebody else's, is defensive handguns. They need to be immediately, like, these are immediate use items. Like, I might need to get this out like yesterday and start.
Mhm.
So I want, like, I just want it to magically appear in my hand and work. I don't want to have to do anything to it. So like, obviously you still have to have some security measures, right? So like for you and I walking around, we're going to have it concealed. For
Mhm.
somebody who's professionally, they may in some sort of duty holster with some active retention. So it still needs to be have some security measures, but it needs to be immediately accessible and immediately operable. So,
Mhm.
um, like, we're not carrying with an empty chamber. We're not like carrying it unloaded and then like, oh, something bad is going to happen. I better load this gun up. Like in the
Yep.
every movie ever, there's like the clickety clack scene where they're like loading all the guns up because it builds
Yep.
suspense. When in reality, it's like, no, just take it out.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like in the helicopter going to kill Bin Laden, and they're like loading their rifle.
Dude, yeah. So anyway, uh, I think that's about it on. Well, one other thing. So this is something that James talked about on the Shield when it first came out. Is this safety is super super low profile and tiny. So cool thing about this one is you can just ignore it. You can just take the safety off and leave it off and never touch it, and then you don't have any issues. So it's not causing you any detriment to have it. Um, the
until until it comes on without you knowing.
Well, so far so good, and
So far, so good.
this is
Which,
like, this is over a decade. So
yeah,
um, for a gun like this, a super tiny subcompact, a lot of people are gonna like throw them in a fanny pack or in your pocket or something like that. So I don't mind for like a gun like this to have a small, unobtrusive manual safety on it if you
mhm.
were something like that with it. So, um, yeah, that was a point that James made that I thought was a
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, but it's kind of running into the conundrum. Like, you take your car to the mechanic because the brakes aren't working, and the mechanic comes back and he's like, "Well, I couldn't fix your brakes, so I just made your horn louder."
Yeah,
That's basically what we're doing here. It's like, well, I'm going to do this very suboptimal and potentially dangerous thing with my gun, like just tossing it in a purse or a fanny pack, but it'll be okay because I have a manual safety on it.
yeah. Obviously, it doesn't, because it has a manual safety. It does not allow you to treat it negligently. Um, it What I'm trying to say here is it gives you an added layer of protection if you think you need that for
You're
those
you're
niche.
technically right. Like I said, it makes people feel safer.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it actually makes them safer.
Well, and to
And
your point, um, it actually potentially is more unsafe to do that
yeah, I believe that it
because
is.
when you get that thing out of your fanny pack, like, did you remember to take that off because you never use it?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
anyway,
People only want to say, it's more safe because it makes the gun harder to go off. I'm repeating myself, but
yeah,
it becomes a mindset thing. It's for people. It's the objective is to carry the gun. For us, it's to save our life.
yep, to
Like
fight with.
like that's the objective of me carrying the gun, not just to carry it without shooting
Yeah,
myself or someone else unintentionally.
the point of carrying it is to fight with it. It's not, the point of carrying it isn't just to carry it. So
Yes.
All right. Well, we can move on to some long guns. Let me pause this real quick, and we'll get back to it.
Sure thing.
All right, we're back talking about more safety nonsense. So, we're going to talk about rifles. So, Austin, tell me about the safety on the rifle.
Yeah, I mean, you call it nonsense, but this does actually make sense because rifles are a different thing. We don't have holsters for rifles because you mentioned a proper holster should cover the trigger, but with a rifle, we're just carrying this thing around. So anything can get into there and potentially press it. So for long guns, for something that's not going to go in a holster, it does make sense to have a manual safety. I have manual safeties on all mine. I don't know of a rifle that doesn't come with some kind of manual safety. Well, actually, like old school lever actions don't have a manual safety. Usually, it's either like half cock on the hammer or something like that. But everything that's within 150 years old has a manual safety that I know
We'll
of
talk
on a
about
long gun.
we'll talk about like fighting rifles. We'll
Yeah,
specify fighting rifles now.
yeah. Modern carbines that are magazine fed, I've never seen one without a manual safety.
Correct.
And I believe they are necessary for that reason. We're carrying this thing and the trigger is exposed. So we do need a manual safety to keep anything from getting in there and pressing it.
Agreed. Agreed. Do you have any opinions on an AR safety, on an M4 safety?
Um, uh, I like it.
All right.
You can
Well
put
said.
on like I'm pretty agnostic about like ambi safeties. Like if you're lefty and you have an ambi safety or just a left-handed safety, I don't hate it. It's okay with me. The 45-degree ones, because like this is a 90-degree one, so like that's safe, and then that's fire. This is conventional. The 45-degree ones where like this is safe and this is fire. Fine with me, I guess. I don't hate them. Uh,
So
yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you. I kind of so
Okay.
uh, here's the AR safety. All right, fire, safe. Um, the the 45 degree where I flip it to like here, I find it just doesn't. I find that it can accidentally get bumped back on too
Mm-hmm.
easily. So again, to your point, when I want this thing to shoot, like I want it to shoot, like I want it to be all shooty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when it's at this 45, I feel like it's really easy for it to make that quarter turn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it'd be innate. So I hate that. Um, how about
You
any?
hate it.
Yeah, I hate it. I really do. I hate
It's a
the.
strong word.
Um, yeah, it's just wrong. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I guess if you like came up on a 45-degree safety your entire life and like had 1,000 reps, maybe I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yeah. I
I
don't
will.
have much. I don't have much experience running them, so I've never
Yeah.
had an issue with it because I've shot like 2 or 3 guns with them on it. I've never like ran around with it for any length of time.
So I will
Um,
say, let's when we're doing our uh, our stuff. Typically, we're going to run this gun in a high port, right, or up, right.
yeah.
So uh, it is difficult to re-engage that safety when you've got it in one hand holding it pointed up. It's hard to reach up there. You kind of got to twist your hand and use like the
Mm-hmm.
side to hit that safety. um, it's obviously a lot easier to flip it back on when it's here, but I still find myself breaking my grip. So if you were concerned about getting your safety back on, like, you know, quick, fast, and in a hurry, I could see, and in any position, I could see why somebody might like a 45-degree safety. Typically, mine's the opposite. Like, I can take some time to put this thing back on. I want it to come off really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And then, that brings up the point of, the American style of running an AR is anytime you break cheek weld, that safety goes back on. I don't know if it's because of the safety on the AR is so easy to manipulate, but like that's how dudes do it. That's how they've done it. And there are dudes who will jump up and down, red in the face, screaming mad if you don't run it like that.
well,
Like if you don't put that safety on the instant it breaks your cheek weld, like they will make you do push-ups or whatever.
not all of them. So there's some debate about this.
Yeah, there is. I'm just saying. I'm
Yeah.
saying there are some that will get that upset about it, and there are some
There are some
that are the complete opposite.
There's controversy about does your safety go on when you do a reload?
Mm-hmm.
You're breaking your cheek weld.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's because it's so easy to use, there is some overuse of it. And the biggest thing is, like, anybody who's done team stuff professionally can tell you, like, when you're going through the house and every time you go through a door, you hear this. Like, it's just wrong. Like, don't do that. If you
You're saying just leave it off while you're coming into a room to clear it with a rifle?
I'm saying they're like nervous and twitchy, and they're taking the safety off when they don't have a target. They just think there might be a target there, and like in their brain, something makes them feel good when they hit that safety.
So you're saying they're literally doing that? They're literally just fidgeting with the safety, like
Yeah.
for no reason.
Well,
They're just flipping it on and off.
It's not necessarily fidgeting, and it's not necessarily for no reason, but it is overuse for a bad reason. I'm not taking the safety off because I have a target. I'm just taking it off because I'm going through a door and, like, there might be a target. Right? So now, certainly, if your SOP is to run safety off all the time, which is how it used to be done, then okay, I guess. But the on off is like there's it's I see no way that that's a benefit to anyone. The constant. So uh so yeah, anyway, so history of safety use, I guess, is it used to be done safety, it was your gun was on set to full auto all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because on the MP5, it wasn't ergonomic like this. You couldn't hit that safety, like, it was too far away from where the pistol grip was. So you dudes couldn't hit the safety and switch it all the way to full auto.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 80s, like the MP5 heyday. So their
Mm-hmm.
SOP, like, we're just going to go big boy rule, going to keep our gun full auto and not touch the triggers. And if you're using something where you're a little bit limited in that sense, I think it, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But yeah. Anyway, that's a different. It's a different thing, different reason, and, like, it is. I fail to see how that's not riskier than, like let's say you had everybody has M4s, and A team, their SOPs to run safety off all the time, and B team, they're their SOP is like, if I put my optic on a guy, I'm taking the safety off. Like on the sights, safety's off. Um, I fail to see how like a team gains very much, and I also fail to see how that's not more dangerous. Like for when you're talking modern stuff, right? So
Right.
now,
Yeah. Well, you going off of what you said before about the MP5, the AK allegedly is kind of the same way because this isn't a select fire AK, but this, if you're unfamiliar, this is safe, and then all the way down is fire, and then if this were select fire, a full auto would be kind of like right here,
correct.
which uh, the story I've heard, and it makes sense to me, is that they did that because, like you said, if they go, oh shit, real quick, and they swipe it off, they swipe it to semi and not full auto. And then when they're being very thoughtful about it, they can then swipe it up to full auto for the thing that they're going to do. But also, I've heard from Sonny Pazikis, the Soviet way, the Russian way, or philosophy, I should say, is if this pistol grip is in my hand, the safety is off because I have positive control of this rifle. I'm not going to let any bullshit get in here because I have a hand on the pistol grip. Now, if I need to take my hand off of that, that's when the safety goes on. And then I can let it hang, put it behind me, store it, hand it to my buddy, whatever I got to do. Then when I get back control of it, I'm taking the safety back off and I'm just going to run it like this. Which makes sense to me. I can get behind that. But then the other thing they did, which was checking if this is unloaded because I ain't going to touch the trigger. They ran their shit like this. So they would walk around and they would jam their finger like this. So it kind of protected the trigger without putting pressure this way on the trigger to make it, shoot. Yeah, I don't like that because if I get scared, if I sneeze, if I trip over something, if I step on a Lego, I'm gonna do this. And if I do that while my finger's there, I'm gonna do that and have a negligent discharge. So I like the first part, kind of. I don't like the second part. And then another thing about this, in my opinion, a failure of Americanizing the AK is those safeties with the shelf on it. You know what I mean? The one sticking out from the side, so you can take your one finger and flip the safety up and down with one finger. You don't have to take it off and do that thing. Because they're trying to Americanize it. They're trying to, well, my AR has the thing right here, and every time I break cheek weld, I put the safety back on, so I have to do with this one now, is the mindset. And the problem with that is, you can ask Sonny, it's happened multiple times in his classes, dudes with those, they put their finger on it and then swipe it down. You have to pretend, but they swipe it down, and as they're swiping down, they overshoot it, and it goes on the trigger, and they press it, and they have an ND. It's happened to him multiple times in his classes. So that's why he advocates against them. That's why I advocate against them.
I can totally see that. In addition, it's like you're just making it big and asking for it to get on stuff too, which I also don't like. So there's a Western way of running this gun too, which is being at the low ready, and instead of hand on the pistol grip, got hand on the safety. And then when
right
I come up onto my sights, I just swipe that down. I don't hate that. The downside there is like that doesn't necessarily work in every carry position quite the same way. It doesn't work the same way when you're a high ready, or certainly not when you're a high a high port. So, and so here's another. I was lucky enough to take a class with him quite a few years ago. Is definitely when you're using this gun, you want the safety to be off. Like even if you're gonna safety on when you're walking around, like safety on hand on the safety lever. If I'm using this gun, I'm not putting it on between reloads. I'm not putting it on when I'm like moving cover to cover. Like if the fight is happening, the safety's off and it stays off as long as that fight lasts.
Mm-hmm.
So now I guess like within reason, right? Like if I have to backsling this rifle and carry you, like I'm probably gonna want to put that thing on, right? But
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying here. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, it's just a different. It's a different. It was a different philosophy when this rifle was constructed. Um, and yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of in between the old school Soviet philosophy of like if my hands on pistol grip, the safety's off, and the American style of you got to put the safety back on after you break cheek weld. But this particular family of rifles, the AK rifle, I'm kind of in between. So like if I'm like walking around like this, like the safety's on, and I'll probably have a hand on the pistol grip. This is like, just standing around doing whatever. If I'm doing like a long patrol, I might have it like this. So if I need to swipe it off real quick and shoot, I can do that. But like if the TL tells us to get online, like some shit's about to go down, I'm going like that. So like I would take it off at like the low ready or maybe even like a high ready kind of thing. Like that's when the safety is going to come off for me personally. And then like you said, um, it's going to stay off until we're no longer in danger or the fight's over, whenever that is. Or like you said, and like I said before, I need to do something else, like put it back on, render aid, pick up a buddy, hand this rifle to somebody else, do whatever. For me personally. And then AR, kind of the same thing. Like I'm probably not as I don't know, diligent about the whole safety off when you break cheek weld kind of thing. Like when I run an AR, like I shoot with the safety off, obviously, but then when I assess, I keep it's shocking. When I assess, I keep the safety off because then if I need to shoot again, just bring it up and shoot some more.
Yeah.
So like people would get upset and like you broke the cheek weld, you kept the safety off. It's like, yeah, but I might need to shoot again because like I'm seeing if the guy needs to be shot anymore. If I do, I'm gonna shoot him again. And like my hands on the pistol grip, my fingers straight, whatever. Now when I go when I break shoulder weld, that's when I put the safety on an AR. Like to go up, to go down, to do whatever. That's when the safety goes on for me, personally.
Yeah, I think the hard and fast rules are not necessarily beneficial, right? So, like, if I'm mid gunfight and like someone's actively shooting at me and I need to reload my gun, so I'm breaking cheek weld because I'm doing this to go ahead and put a new magazine in this gun. And then I know like someone's actively shooting at me, I need to be shooting at them. Uh, does my safety need to go on? I would no, bro. And the same thing for you. Like if I shoot a guy a bunch of times, he falls down, and I am looking over my optic at him to make sure that like he's not a threat anymore. Does my safety need to be on? No. Like if I'm expecting this guy to come up with another weapon or whatever, like I probably want to have that safety off and like be ready to blast again. So,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
According to some people, you would be wrong for that because you broke cheek weld, but
Man,
I'm not of that camp. And the thing you said about the safety being off before you enter a room, I was thinking to myself, I'd probably do that. Like if I'm carrying a gun for a living and I'm searching this house, I'm about to enter a room where I don't know if there's going to be a bad guy. I'd
so
probably take it off before I go in that room.
I'll tell you. Here's something that I picked up from a law enforcement class. Uh, Baltimore SWAT guy. I don't think he uses his name, so I won't. But uh, here's a technique that he taught us about the safety, which I was going to bring up anyway, is where does everybody run their thumb on the safety? when they're using an AR.
Like over the top. Like if this is a safety, kind of put it
Yep.
right there, so you can just.
Yep. So typically, dudes run their ARs like this. He runs his directly under. The reason is he was doing a search warrant on a house and he fell through a floor. So I think now he's in Baltimore. There's like a lot of abandoned houses that are hazardous, right?
Mhm.
So, and I say abandoned, like, a lot of these are being used as trap houses or whatever. So in his particular environment, that's dangerous. So, like, if you had your thumb on top of the safety and you fall through a floor, how easy is that to happen, right? Versus
Yeah, because that whole thing.
underneath, you can grab on this all day and it's not coming off accidentally. When it comes to like the speed and ergonomics, intuitively taking the safety off, he was like, it makes no difference. And I found that to be the case 100%. So I actually run my thumb underneath based on that little bit of experiential knowledge that was passed down to me.
Mhm.
So, and I found, yeah, like running through the shoot house or flat range qualifications, whatever, I've not found the thumb under to be detrimental in any way. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't hate that. Like, I'm not going to get upset until you're wrong for that. I mean, it's okay.
yeah, yeah,
I certainly learned something when you told me that story. That's interesting.
yeah. And even if it's not a floor collapsing, like, I mean, here's something that you just fall all the time. Like we do CQB in these big giant shoot houses with no furniture and like square rooms and not like hoarder houses with stuff all over the floor. But like you do this for real, like
Yeah, it's all
maybe
kinds of shit.
maybe you're just a ballerina, right, with impeccable balance, but like you're probably gonna fall at some point. So tripping
Yeah,
or
well,
whatever.
it's like that video you shared in our group with the Anchorage PD when they had all that shit
Oh
piled up in
yeah,
the hotel room. That dude
yeah,
was they had to stumble over all that shit.
yeah,
The one where the tail guy just tossed a flashbang in the hallway for some reason. I still don't know why. That
yeah.
was, but
The
yeah, bunch of shit on the floor. Had to like freaking
bad,
crawl over the bed and shoot the guy in the head.
yeah. So the bad guy had barricaded the door with like a bunch of furniture and a bunch of nonsense, right? So even to get in the door, like it's very difficult. And then once they're in the room, there's stuff everywhere. So um, yeah, that's why I run on an AR. I run my thumb under, and another reason why I support using the safety and not just having it off is like there's not we get a little bit accustomed to the flat range and to the shoot house, like the big open empty shoot house, and that just kind of isn't how real life is. So I think yeah, I think the safety was put there for a pretty good reason, and I like it for specifically for an AR
Hmm.
or AR.
Yeah, yeah, but that also becomes like a chicken or the egg thing because if you think about it, the predecessor to the M16 was the M14, which did not have as intuitive as a safety. It wasn't as easy to put on and take off. So I wonder if Stoner just made it easier, and that led to us, like Americans, Westerners, becoming so obsessed with keeping that thing on until the very last second that you don't need it to be on, or um, or if he had a crystal ball and he was like, or he just had the idea, this is going to be way better. I'm going to put it in an easier position so maybe the guys will use it more, kind of thing. I don't know which one's true. I have no proof to say it
Yeah.
goes either way. Just off a hunch, I would say it's the former. I'd say he just wanted to make it easy, and as a byproduct, the dude became obsessed with leaving it on at all times possible. So now we have these dudes that get red in the face, jumping up and down, mad when you don't put it on to assess the guy you just shot or the target you just shot.
Well, so I said I don't like hard and fast rules. If I gotta give a rule for me, here's what it is when it makes sense to use it, use it.
Yeah.
Like use it. So one other thing on AR, what about ambi safeties? What's your take on that?
They're okay, I guess. Pretty agnostic on them. Yeah, like
So the you can see how long that safety is. So
mhm.
typically, I don't have one here to show you, but typically on an ambi, that'll be like uh, a fraction of the length.
Yeah, a little
So
stubby one. I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yeah,
stubby one on the right.
or it'll be like super flat on one side.
Oh, I've not seen that.
You haven't seen those? Yeah, those are the two
No.
styles. You can have the little stubby one, or you have a super flat one.
Okay, I've seen the stubbies, but and the reason there is like you don't want it in the way of your hand when you're like using this thing. So, but I really do like ambi safeties for precision guns. So if I think I'm going to be shooting this, like if this is some sort of a DMR, SPR type of gun, designated marksman's rifle, special purpose rifle, something where I'm going to be like shooting far and or precise and like from the prone or whatever, I really like an ambi safety because when you're in the prone, it's typically you're shooting with the thumb on the right side of the gun. So
Hmm.
being able to control the gun from the right side is pretty nice.
Hmm.
So I took a designated marksman's class with Don Edwards and used one of his guns that had it on there, and I was like, this makes the most sense of
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah, I have a similar experience. I took a precision rifle class from a guy locally. He's a SWAT sniper, and he let me borrow his rifle because I don't have a precision rifle because I make less than like $50,000 a year. I don't have money for that shit.
All
So
right.
yeah, rest in peace. Pour one out for me. Uh, so I borrowed his rifle, and he had a left-handed safety for the same reason because he's a big fan of shooting like that. Because allegedly, if you shoot like this and you press the trigger, it wants to like go off to the side a little bit. So he's a bigger fan of doing it like that. So you just press it straight to the rear. So he just had a left hand. It might have been ambi, but set up for a lefty because it was longer on
Okay.
this side of the gun for my right hand. So yeah, I've also seen dudes with ambi safeties um, kind of swipe the safety with their index finger if they're right-handed. So I don't know if that's in addition to the thumb like you typically would, but I've seen them kind of like
Oh, you
do
mean
that kind of thing
to put it
to
back?
swipe, put it back on. Yeah, they take it out. They kind of like they kind of go like that and they swipe it with their thumb and their finger instead of just their thumb to put it back on.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. To take it off, I would have a problem with that. But
Yeah, if you're doing yeah,
yeah,
no,
like if I'm gonna take it off with my trigger finger, that seems stupid.
yeah.
But uh,
I only do that shooting left-handed with the. I use my index finger to take it off. If I'm going to shoot left-handed and I haven't already taken the safety off, I use the index finger. Some people will just bring the thumb around and hit it with their left thumb. If they're going to go full offside, which you and I have had debates about that too, but separate thing. Yeah. Oh well. You got anything else about AK or AR style safeties?
no, let's. I think that's it. Let's talk about rear. So
Yeah. This is all
uh,
on you because I don't have anything
cool.
that has a weird safety.
So here's a very common one. Is a crossbolt safety. So here's a 1022. This is going to be common on a lot of like sporting type guns, and like Remington 870s, some other Winchester shotguns as well, Ithacas. So very, very common safety. And what it is a little button there in front of the trigger guard. And I want to say it's always in front. Sometimes it may be behind, though.
No, 870 is behind.
Okay, so sometimes it's behind. Somewhere in the vicinity of the trigger guard, where it's a button where you push and it pops through to the other side and it shows you a little red thing, and that means fire. And then to put the safety back on, you would push it back the other way. So there's a safety. They work fine. The downside is that they are right hand only. So
Yeah, if you're lefty, you're screwed.
yeah, you just have to figure out a different way to do it. So
Yeah.
That's super common though. I don't really have much to say on that other than for me personally, I decided to go with a Mossberg shotgun for a couple of reasons, but one of them being it has a tang safety. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of a button somewhere in here that I'm pressing to the side, this is automatically ambidextrous because it's in the middle and it goes forward for fire, and you see the little red indicator there that you would only see in the daytime and only if you're looking at it. But like the bullets go forward, so like pushing it.
Yeah,
forward.
I was gonna say that's how I remember. I'm like, I want the bullets to go that way, or I want them to stay here. That's how I remember which way is which.
Back being safe, and that works either hand. So that's one reason I went with the Mossberg 500 instead of the 870. So tang safety is what that's called.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not. I don't. They both work fine. Yeah, if you're switching hands, then or if you're left-handed, then that might be preferable to you. If you're like, what are the odds I ever switch hands with a shotgun? Like, who cares? Then also fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know one guy who said he killed a Haji in Iraq left-handed with a shotgun.
Okay. Good for him. That's dope.
Good for him.
I hope that bad guy deserved it. I think I was reading David Bellaby's book, and they were doing some shotgun work in that book. They're also doing a lot of 249 saw gunning, like a lot.
Hell yeah!
But all right, so we can talk about some weirder stuff. So you brought this up before. Is a half cock.
Yep.
So
hey, look at that.
Yeah. So here's
wow.
If I knew where the this is a 22, but if I knew where the Allen wrench was, I'd rip the scope off so you could see it easier. But so 22, you've got cock. You might notice there's like no manual safety on this gun. So the way to let this hammer down is to hold it back and hold it back, press the trigger, and ride it down. So you might see that you probably can't tell. So that's how you unload and show clear, because there's no magazine to take out of this thing. When you drop the hammer, you can see it falls further forward, and then I'll bring it back right here. There's half cock and full cock. So if I was going to carry this gun chambered, so I load up the magazine, I cock the gun, and then I let this hammer down to half cock. Now the gun is chambered, but it's not cocked. So I can carry this gun around safely. There's no manual safety on this gun. And then if I'm going to shoot it, I manually pull the hammer back. So, or you could just run it chamber empty and fully cock it before you shoot, if you wanted to do that thing. Now that is a little bit more movement and noise. So like if you're hunting with this thing, or you're trying to just be sneaky in general, like I don't know, what you're sneaking up on the buffalo or whatever you're doing. Maybe you don't want this big motion, right? And if you do this slow, like you have a potential of it's like riding the slide forward, right? So a potential of messing it up. So
Yeah, kind of. Not as much because there's no spring pressure, but
yeah,
yeah, if you're being careful, if you're being gentle, like I could see you like not getting it all the way like closed or in battery or whatever. So that could be a thing. Yeah, that's a super old school way to do it before they gave any kind of a shit about gun safety. Um, which
well,
actually
I'll show you.
it brings up another point I was going to make. The double action single action trigger, so like on a Sig 226, that does not have a manual safety, doesn't have a thumb safety, but it's double action single action, has a decocker. The idea behind that, for people listening, if you're unfamiliar, is the first trigger pull is super heavy because back in the day, people just ran around with their finger on the trigger. Like watch any World War II or Korean War or prior like training videos. Dudes would just walk around with their Garans with their finger on the trigger. Like this, that's just what you did. So like on a single action pistol, you either run it with the safety on and put your finger on the trigger, or if you don't have one, you just the Walther P38 was the first one to come out with that because people kept having NZs. So they were like, well, let's just make the first one really heavy so that doesn't happen anymore. And then, you know, we were like, hey, if we don't put our finger on the thing that makes the gun go bang, it probably won't go bang. Which is what we do now with guns like this. We just don't put our finger on the trigger until we're ready to shoot.
For sure.
So, because I had to come up with the pros and cons of that, and I struggled to find a pro. I think I found a pro of it, but I was like yeah, I was like the pro. It's like what is the pro of that now? Other than you can more safely do a thing that is no longer acceptable as safe, being run around with your finger on the trigger when you're not ready to shoot.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a light primer strike, you might be able to restrike it.
that's uh, that's
That's what they say with revolvers, dude.
you're technically correct. But other than that very specific thing you have to do in that very specific circumstance, like what's the advantage to having a double action, single action?
Dry practice.
Say that again.
Dry practice.
You're gonna have to do a shitload of it because
They're great dry practice because the trigger resets itself.
yeah, and you're gonna have to do that a lot because it is a very steep learning curve to learn. The first one's gonna be really heavy, and then the rest of them are gonna be different. It's an inconsistent trigger press. So for me, like there's basically no upside and several downsides.
That was with the 40 millimeter gas gun or using impact rounds or whatever. That's something like you're used to Glock or M4, and then you grab this and you got the double action. You gotta remember. Mm-hmm. But all right, so you said the lever action was before they cared about gun safety. So I'll show you something even worse.
Oh boy.
So this is a single shot 20 gauge, and I believe it's from the 1930s. This has been in my family for 4 generations, I think. And we'll go ahead and unload that. Ejector worked super good. And we can actually, yeah, look at that. So this gun, obviously, no manual safety. I cock it. There's no half cock. It's just cocked or not cocked. So,
Mm-hmm.
when you let the hammer down, like if it slips, it's gonna go off.
Yep.
So, and I've had that happen to me when I was like 12 years old. Um, there was some wascally wabbits, dude, invading the garden. So I go out there with my grandpa with the 410, not this gun, similar, I mean, same exact operating method, and I blast one of them, and so I go to take another shot at one. I come up on him, cock it, and he's like telling me not to cock it. He's like, just wait, just wait. Of course, I don't listen, right? And I'm like, sweet mother, here it comes. Like, they're in the wire. And I come up, cock it, and it doesn't work. Like, it moves or whatever. And so then he's trying to tell me to, like, be careful with that or, like, just let me do it. And I was like, I can do it. I can do it. Cow!
Classic.
So obviously it was, pointed in a safe direction. Everything. We're out in the country, but yeah. So this is a cock or not cock. There's no in between. So
Yep.
these
Yeah.
are
People don't understand the context in which these things were, the context in which they came about. Like back in the day, like you just had NDs. Like it was just a thing that happened, and you kind of just go, "Whoops, that sucks." Um, I don't know if this story is true, but someone highly respected in the industry told me this story about someone else very highly respected in the industry that founded one of the OG training schools. I'll leave it at that. You might be able to figure out who it is, but hey, you came to that conclusion yourself. It came to be known through the 80s, the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s when they started doing SHOT Show that this particular gentleman would just have an ND during the show. Like the ammunition thing was way more laxed, so ammunition ended up in the guns on display way more often. And this dude would just have NDs, and everyone would go, "Well, there he goes again, had an ND."
crank one off, dude.
Just crank one off into the ceiling in the convention center at SHOT Show through the 80s and the 90s until that particular gentleman passed away, or just quit going to SHOT Show, whichever one came first. Like, yeah, like guns were just designed like that. It's like, yeah, you gotta let the hammer down. If you let it slip, you're gonna have an ND. Like, what do you want to do? There's no manual safety. There's no half cock. Uh, just yeah, sometimes you forget it's on and you keep your finger on the trigger and you press it and you just have an ND. Like that's the way it is. And also like uh, gun reliability the bar was way lower than it is today.
Yep.
Like there are crazy torture tests and stress tests and longevity tests of has to go 10,000 rounds without any kind of malfunction that can't be attributed to ammunition. It's like back in the day it was not the standard. Like guns just didn't work as well, but that's just how it was. That was just to be expected.
So what was I going to say? Oh, so that got me thinking. Your mustache got me thinking, dude. So back in the Wild West, they got like the Colt single action armies, right? So single action 6-shot revolvers. They carried them with 5 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So the safety that they used was the hammer down on an empty cylinder. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Like they were kind of doing this back then, even.
Mm-hmm. So the dudes who were actually using this to protect their life were doing things different than the inventor predicted, because those guns had a half cock, which I forgot to mention it before, but like anytime half cock is brought up, the first thing people say is like, do not use the half cock as a safety, because it does, like if you drop that, it's going to drop the hammer and it's going to go off.
Well,
So like
depends on the gun.
I've heard it doesn't, because the 1911 has a half cock, and pretty much everyone says like don't use the half cock as a safety.
You said what? What is half cock? I'm sorry.
The 1911 has a half cock position, and everyone says
So,
don't use it.
so it totally depends on the gun, to my knowledge. So, modern like revolvers, for example, and they have a safety bar. So it's a physical piece
Yeah.
that blocks the hammer from hitting the. Well, first of
Yeah.
all,
Keep talking. I'm gonna get mine.
yeah. On old school revolvers, firing pin was on that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there could be nothing to block. But when we switched designs, we got modern revolvers where the firing pin is part of the gun and the hammer is like blunt.
Yep.
They've got
Yeah.
a
For example, this one. This
yep,
was made in the 90s. So, as you said,
yep,
nothing on the hammer. And if you look in, this is unloaded. I can't take a cylinder out. You have to trust me. There's the transfer bar.
yep, transfer bar.
Behind that, yep, transfer bar. So when I press this, you'll see, I'll ride the hammer down so you can see. As that's falling, that falls out of the way, and then the hammer can strike the firing pin. And when I recock it slowly, you can see that thing coming up, so it physically blocks the firing pin.
Correct. Yep. So
Type shit.
it's my understanding that a lot of those modern guns that that safety bar, transfer bar, is still up in the half cock position.
Let's see. I guess this doesn't have a half cock. It's not clicking.
It didn't look like there was a half cock on it.
There's a click there, but it's not staying. And that's full cock. So this particular gun doesn't have half cock. But yeah, because I've heard of with the half cock, like the sphere is so fragile that if you drop it and it hits it, the hammer's gonna drop from the half cock. So it's not safe. So yeah, like I was saying, and like you were saying, like we were saying before, the dudes who actually used it and carried it for protection, they got around it by just letting the hammer fall in an empty chamber. Because like you said, the fixed hammer, even if it's down completely, if you smack it, it's going to smack the primer and detonate the round.
Yeah. So everybody talks about 6 shooters, but they weren't used that way. They were 5 shots. Yeah. Anyway. Cool, man. Well, I can't believe we made it a whole episode without saying this is my safety, sir.
we said it in a way. Like I said it before, I'm like, hey, you just keep your finger off the trigger, and you don't need a super heavy first trigger press.
Yeah.
Like this is what we do now. And then like you were saying, the whole uh, we put the thumb under the AR safety so you don't accidentally swipe it off, and maybe press the trigger as well. It's also why when my finger's off the trigger, it's like this, like it's high and away.
Yep.
To reduce the chance that I grab and it goes on versus something like this. If I still, it's more like for me to grab it. So like I do it like that. Some guys go crazy and they like do that kind of stuff. I don't, but I do that.
Yep.
And then, like I mentioned on the previous episode, I can also tell when my gun's locked open or not. Cause like right now I can feel the ejection port, but if it's open, I can't. It's smooth.
Yep.
And the one use case for front slide serrations if you're left-handed. Because on this gun, if I was left-handed, it would feel the same either way because it's smooth. But if there were front slide serrations, I could feel the slide serrations until the slide was open. Which you could probably just get around by putting like grip tape or something right here to feel it. If you want to go crazy with it.
Yeah. Or you could just know.
Yeah, you can just be perfect like you and just know that my gun's locked back. Or if you don't know and you're not sure, you just get a new magazine and drop the old one and stick the new one in and rack the slide to make sure it's loaded.
If you don't know, go ahead and press that trigger. You'll find out.
If you don't know, just do a press check real quick.
Yeah, press the trigger and yeah.
Yeah, press the trigger to check if it's loaded.
Well, you'll find out.
You will find out. It'll be like a certain individual at SHOT Show in like 1985. Just, oh, there he goes again.
Delta or no Delta, that's a hot weapon.
All right, then. Well, any final thoughts?
Nah, man, I appreciate you coming on. This is Austin, and then Reed with Rapid Response Training. And don't carry a gun with a manual safety. Don't be weird.
No. Unless it's